Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for Wednesday, November 5th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel. It'll be one player at each position, so point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and center. And then I will start off by mentioning that DraftKings is going to be an 8-game main slate and FanDuel is going to be an 11-game main slate. In the morning, I'll be posting all the injury reports for the teams that are not on back-to-backs. We do have 4 teams in total on back-to-backs, and that's going to be the Philadelphia 76ers, New Orleans Pelicans, Oklahoma City Thunder, and Golden State Warriors. And I will apologize for Tuesday's video, as I did say there was 3 teams on back-to-back. It technically was only 2, so I definitely do apologize for that. And then I will also be posting injury updates throughout the day, as well as an updated core about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock. Left is a pinned comment. If there's no changes to the core at that point in time, we'll leave a pinned comment that just says no changes to the core at this point in time. If there's any other additional changes beyond that, we'll leave them as a reply to that pinned comment, and then I will be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the evening as well. But without further ado, we'll get right into it with the DraftKings side. We're going to start off at that point guard position, and we're going right back to Jeremiah Fears here. He is at $5,000, so a little bit more expensive than he was on Tuesday's slate. Technically, we're looking for 25 DraftKings points out of him to pay off at 5 times value, exactly what he's averaging so far in the season. As long as he's in that starting lineup going out there playing decent-sized minutes, he's going to look pretty good overall. Do currently have him projected for about 28 DraftKings points for Wednesday's slate. And then we're going to move down to shooting guard with Keontae George, who's had a really strong start to the year. He's at $7,100, so we're looking for at least 36 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Currently averaging 42 fantasy points per game on the season, and I have him modestly projected for 39.40 in this matchup, but definitely does have a ton of upside for even more. It's been a great start to the season. It is a very attractive matchup going against the Detroit Pistons, so I would not be surprised if he definitely outperforms this price tag once again. And then we move down to small forward with OG Anunoby. He comes in at $6,600, so we're looking for 33 DraftKings points out. Currently averaging 35 so far in this season. Goes against the Minnesota Timberwolves, so a little bit tougher matchup just in general, but his length should be a valuable asset in this matchup overall, and I do currently have him projected for 36 DraftKings points. And then we're going to move down to Isaiah Stewart, who should be in that starting lineup once again for the Detroit Pistons, as it looks like Tobias Harris is set to miss on Wednesday as well, and he comes in at $5,200. So we're looking for at least 26 out of him, averaging 29 so far on the season, coming off a really strong performance. If he's starting alongside Jalen Duren, a lot of upside and a lot of minutes to be had there just in general. Modestly haven't projected for 30 DraftKings points, but definitely does have a ton of upside for even more than that. And then last but not least, we're going to go down to Daniel Gafford for the Dallas Mavericks, coming in at $4,700, looking for at least 24 out of him, averaging 23.5 so far in the season. Goes against the New Orleans Pelicans, should be a pretty attractive matchup there. Pretty much all the centers are banged up for the Mavericks at this point in time, so Gafford should get the bulk load of the minutes. Played really well in their most recent game, and I do currently have him projected for 30 DraftKings points, but has a ton of upside for even more than that. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you got $21,400 remaining, just over $7,100 remaining per player. So a decent amount of money remaining if you want to pay up for like a star player and then kind of pay down the rest of the way from there. Or if you want to go with a little bit more balanced approach, definitely a lot of ways that we can approach this slate overall. But with that being said, we'll get over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on the FanDuel side at the point guard position, we're going to go with Russell Westbrook here. He's at $6,400. He's been in that starting lineup pretty consistently for the Kings at this point in time. He's had some really strong upside since he's been in that starting lineup at $6,400. We're looking for at least 32 out of him. Goes against the Golden State Warriors. Has been a pretty attractive matchup in terms of point guards scoring fantasy points. So definitely do like the upside of Russell Westbrook in this matchup. Currently haven't projected for 35. Definitely has some strong upside for even more than that. Might come with a little bit of downside for less, if he doesn't go out and get the minutes. But definitely do like what he's been doing as of late. And then we're going to move down to shooting guard with Keontae George. He comes in at $7,400, so a little bit more expensive on the FanDuel side. So we're looking for 37 points out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Currently averaging just over 40.5 fantasy points per game on the season. I have him modestly projected for about 39 on the FanDuel side. Definitely has some pretty strong upside for more, especially going against the Detroit Pistons in what should be a plus matchup. And like I mentioned on DraftKings, has been a really strong start to the year for Keontae George, and is a guy that at this point in time, he should be closer to $8,000. So we're going to take advantage of him at this price tag. And then we're going to move down to small forward with OG Anunoby. Comes in at $6,600 on the FanDuel side as well. Looking for at least 33 out of him. Currently averaging over 35 so far in the season. Goes against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Kind of a hit or miss matchup there. It's probably a little bit tougher one, but definitely do love the versatility of OG Anunoby, what he can do on the offensive end, what he can do on the defensive end. Contributed in multiple categories, steals and blocks. Obviously, will get you a couple extra points on the FanDuel side as well. And currently have him projected for 36 FanDuel points for Wednesday's slate. And then we move down to power forward with Isaiah Stewart. He's at $5,000 on the FanDuel side, so he's a little bit cheaper over there. Looking for at least 25 out of him. Should be in that starting lineup once again with no Tobias Harris. And if that's the case, his minutes should be pretty solidified. Definitely does have some pretty strong upside. Goes against the Utah Jazz. Should be a pretty favorable matchup there at the same time as well. If we look at what he's done so far in the season, averaging just under 30 fantasy points per game. And I do modestly have him projected for 30 at this point in time, but definitely does have some pretty strong upside for even more than that. And then last but not least, at center, we're going to go with Daniel Gafford once again. So he's coming in at $5,000, looking for at least 25 fantasy points out of him to pay off at 5 times value. And he's currently averaging just under 26 so far on the FanDuel side. Goes against the New Orleans Pelicans. Should be a pretty favorable matchup there. Daniel Gafford kind of like the lone remaining healthy center at this point in time for the Dallas Mavericks. I guess it's technically him and Dwight Powell, but Gafford played large minutes last time out. Looked pretty good in those minutes. Modestly haven't projected for 30, but definitely has a ton of upside for even more than that. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do have listed on the FanDuel side, you have $29,600 remaining, $7,400 remaining per player. So it looks a little bit like a balanced build at the beginning of the day. Obviously, if you want to pay up for some stud players, you can definitely do that and then kind of pay down the rest of the way from there. Could be some potential value that does open up as the day moves along. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel for Wednesday, November 5th. As always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in that comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again, in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning injury report. That will have the injury report for all the teams that are not on back-to-backs. Once again, we do have 4 teams in total on back-to-backs, and their injury reports will be listed later on in the day. And then also be on the lookout for my updated core, which will be left as a pinned comment about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock. If there's no changes at that point in time, we'll simply leave a pinned comment that says no changes at this point in time. If there's any other additional changes beyond that as the night moves along, we'll leave them as a reply to that pinned comment as well. And then I will also be listing as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the evening. So definitely make sure that you are checking up down in that comment section so that you do have the most up-to-date and relevant information, especially as we do head into lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have NBA DFS in terms of the core pick videos, typically Monday through Friday. This week there will not be one for Thursday's slate, as it is only a 1-game slate. And then I also do have my NFL DFS Core Pick video coming out once a week, and that typically comes out on either Friday or Saturday. It varies a little bit week to week just based on my schedule. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user on either one of those sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you'll get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS for Wednesday, November 5th.